Some things you wear never come off. Tyler Perry built a legacy playing Medea, a loud, gun-toting grandmother wrapped in gospel and slapstick. To the world, she's just a character, sealed by love and laughter. But I've seen what's underneath. The wig isn't just a prop. It's a presence, a spirit dressed in lace and curls. It doesn't want to entertain. It wants to consume. They say it gives you the power to become whoever you want, but no one tells you what it takes in return. I came to Atlanta to chase a dream, young, ambitious, hungry to make my name. Tyler Perry saw something in me, said he could mold it. But when he showed me that wig, something inside me knew. This wasn't just about a role, it was a ritual, and it wanted me next. Because sometimes what you wear isn't just a costume, it's a decision about who you really are. I left Chicago with 2 bags and a promise I made to myself when I was 14, that I wasn't gonna die broke, wasn't gonna die unknown, and definitely wasn't gonna die still explaining to people why I wanted to act. Most of my boys didn't get it. They thought acting meant doing skits on Instagram or trying to go viral yelling into your phone. But I studied. I did the work. Theater at Kennedy King. Took buses in the snow to audition for student films. Worked warehouse jobs just to keep the lights on while I memorized lines in my head. I didn't want fame. I wanted respect. That's why when the call came in, Tyler Perry Studios, Atlanta, supporting role. 3 episodes, maybe more. I packed in an hour and left everything behind. I didn't even tell my mom I was gone until I crossed the Indiana border. When I got to Atlanta, it felt like stepping into a dream that was already halfway in motion. The studio was massive, bigger than anything I'd ever seen. They put me up in a temporary apartment just off Old National. It wasn't fancy, but it was clean. It felt like a new start. First day on set, I was quiet, watching. I didn't want to be the loud dude from out of town. I wanted to earn my space. Then Tyler showed up. Not like how you imagine a studio head. He wasn't surrounded by a posse, no sunglasses or big chain. Just walked in like he was checking on his house. Said good morning to everybody, even the PAs. When he got to me, he paused. "You knew?" "Yes, sir," I said. He looked me up and down like he was reading my whole life in a second. Then he smiled. "You remind me of someone." "Who?" He didn't answer. Just clapped my shoulder and said, "Keep showing up. I see you." A few days later, he pulled me aside during lunch. "You got something," he said. "Raw, untouched. People will try to change that. I want to help you protect it." I nodded, didn't know what to say. Then he said it. "Come to my office. Let's talk legacy." The day of the meeting, I dressed nice, but not too nice. Black button-up, clean kicks. Didn't want to look thirsty. His office was at the far end of the studio compound. Quiet, private, almost too still. A security guard buzzed me in, said nothing, just looked at me like he already knew why I was there. Inside, it smelled like wood polish and vanilla. The room was dim, lit mostly by a single standing lamp and the glow from a display case behind his desk. I almost didn't notice the case at first. I was too focused on the plaques, the awards, the framed scripts. But then my eyes landed on it, a glass box, and inside it, the wig. Brown, curled, a little messy, like it had been worn in, lived in, maybe even slept in. It sat on a mannequin head with a slight tilt, like it was watching me from inside the case. Tyler caught me staring. "You know what that is?" he asked. I nodded. "That's the Medea wig." He stood beside it. The original one, from the first stage play, back when I was still doing shows in church basements and rented theaters. He looked at me, voice dropping to something deeper. "You ever think you could play her?" I laughed a little unsure. "Me? Play Medea?" His smile didn't break. "You're more like her than you think." I didn't know what to say. I smiled, tried to take it as a compliment, but something about the way he said it made the air in the room feel heavier. Like there was a second meaning in the silence that followed. He didn't say much after that. Just gave me some advice about staying focused, protecting my peace, being intentional. Then he told me I could go. As I stepped outside, I glanced back at the display case. The wig looked different. Same curls, same lace. But now it looked awake. 2 weeks later, I was walking past Tyler's office after a night shoot. It was late, almost midnight. Most of the crew had already left. The hallway was dead silent, and the lights had been dimmed. Then I noticed something strange. The door to his office was open. Not cracked, open. The light was on inside, casting a warm yellow rectangle into the hall. I don't know why I stopped. I don't know why I went in. I told myself I was just curious, just wanted to peek. But deep down, it felt like something was pulling me in, like gravity, but emotional. The room was empty, except the display case was open. The wig was gone. The mannequin head sat bare and tilted slightly forward, like it was bowing or waiting. I walked in slow. Every step made the floor creak, even though the carpet was thick. The air felt different, heavy, like I was underwater. I stood in front of the case and just stared at the empty mount. That's when I felt it. Heat on the back of my neck. Not breath, but something close. A presence, like I wasn't alone. Then behind me, "Hey!" I jumped, spun around. It was one of the producers, a stocky guy named Marcus. "What are you doing in here?" he asked. Not angry, just confused. I stumbled over my words. Just got turned around. Long day. He raised an eyebrow but nodded slowly. "Yeah," he said. "Happens." He held the door for me and walked me out without saying anything else. But I knew what I felt in that room. And it wasn't tiredness. It wasn't curiosity. It was something watching me. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about the display case, how the wig had vanished like it walked out on its own. The room didn't feel like an office. It felt like something was waiting to reset. So I started searching. Pulled out my phone, opened YouTube, typed "Original Medea stage play full." I found one, grainy VHS quality. Tyler was younger. The set was bare. Audience packed into a church auditorium, eating it up before he even said a word. It started out funny, familiar, nostalgic even. Then it got weird. There was a moment, maybe 10 minutes in, where Medea turned to the camera and delivered a line directly to the audience. Nothing special at first. But then she laughed. That Medea laugh. And in that moment, that exact frame, I saw it. Something else. A flicker. A distortion. Tyler's eyes changed. The whites disappeared. His smile stretched too wide. And for a split second, his whole face warped. Not into a character, but into a mask. It was like something behind the performance had punched through the surface. And just as fast, it snapped back to normal. I replayed it, paused it, nothing. But I know what I saw, and now I couldn't unsee it. The next morning I showed up to set like everything was normal. Nobody said anything about the wig, about me being in Tyler's office, about the way I'd frozen when I saw the empty case. But something was off. People acted like I was contagious. Smiles that didn't meet their eyes. Conversations that stopped when I walked past. I didn't blame them. I felt off too. Midday, I walked off set and down one of the quieter hallways near the older sound stages. My head was pounding. I needed to breathe. That's when I saw it. The wig. Sitting on the floor. Alone. Perfectly still. Positioned in the center of the hallway like someone had placed it there with care. No wind, no sound. No one else around. I stared, and then it rose. Lifted straight off the floor, 2 feet 4'8", hovering midair, no wires, no trick. Like it was being held up by something I couldn't see. From the shadows behind it, a face began to form. At first, just the shape of lips, then a grin, then eyes, round and bottomless, then skin, shifting and waxy, flickering like static. The face didn't move, but the grin did. It tilted its head at me, and then it lunged. I ran, didn't think, didn't scream, just tore through the hallway, nearly knocking over a set dresser. The doors slammed open as I crashed into the catering tent. People turned, conversation stopped. "The wig!" I shouted. "The wig is following me, it's alive!" I kicked over a table, spilled tea, smashed a tray. Crew backed away like I had a weapon. Phones came out. Someone started recording. And I stood there, in the middle of it all, drenched in sweat, shaking, and completely alone. Security came quick. 2 men, calm, silent. They didn't ask questions. They just walked me out. Everyone watched. No one said a thing. Not, "Are you okay?" Not, "What happened?" Not even a whisper. I sat in my apartment that night staring at the floor. I didn't turn on the lights, didn't touch my phone. I didn't need to, because I knew what was coming. The wig wasn't just something I saw, it was something that had seen me back. When my phone finally buzzed, I answered without looking. My agent. She was gentle. I heard something happened on set. I didn't say anything. They're saying, "You had an episode." I waited. "They want to give you time, a couple weeks off, nothing permanent." I still said nothing. "They think you need rest." "I'm not tired," I said flatly. Another pause. "They just want you to be okay." She hung up. I looked at myself in the mirror that night. Not in a dramatic way, not like in the movies, just looked. And I couldn't tell if I was still me. My eyes felt different, like something was moving behind them, like something was waiting to come forward. And that's when it clicked. This wasn't about the job. It wasn't about acting or opportunity or legacy. This was something spiritual. That wig wasn't just a prop. It was a vessel, and something was trying to pour itself into me. It didn't want me to play a role. It wanted me to become one. I stood up, grabbed my jacket, walked out into the night. I didn't know what I was going to do when I got there, but I knew where I was headed, back to the studio, because I couldn't fight what I didn't understand. And whatever this was, it wasn't finished with me yet. I didn't go back for an apology. I went for the truth. The studio gates looked different at night, not just darker, hollow. The buildings were lit like monuments, but the shadows moved differently. Too sharp, too tall, like they belonged to something watching from above. I didn't need clearance. Security saw my face and let me through. No words, just a nod. It felt like they were expecting me. Tyler Perry's office sat at the edge of the compound, isolated, quiet. It was the kind of building meant to keep things in, not out. The door was already unlocked. I pushed it open slowly. He was inside, alone, sitting at his desk like nothing had happened, like I hadn't screamed about a haunted wig in front of the entire crew, like I hadn't lost control, like I wasn't falling apart. He didn't smile. "Close the door," he said. I did. He gestured to the chair across from him. "Sit." I didn't want to, but I did. We sat in silence for a long time. The kind of silence that makes your heartbeat sound unnatural. The air in the room felt heavy, like it had weight, like something was coiled up in the walls, listening. Even the lamplight felt too warm, like it was hiding something instead of revealing it. Finally, he reached into a drawer and pulled out something wrapped in a silk cloth. He placed it on the desk between us, unwrapped it slowly. The wig. Same curls, same shape, but something about it pulsed, not visibly, but spiritually, like it was alive in a way only your soul could feel, like it knew I was in the room. I tried to hide my reaction, but I could feel my breath shorten. "You saw it, didn't you?" he asked. I didn't answer. "You dreamed about her, then you saw her on the lot." Still, I said nothing. He nodded like he understood, like it was a script we both knew by heart. "She's been with me since the beginning," he said, eyes locked on the wig. "Back when I was broke, living in my car, performing in church basements. I didn't know what she was then. I just knew. When I put her on, people listened. I felt my stomach turn. He continued. She was never just a character, never just a costume. That's what people don't understand. Medea, she's a vessel. But the wig is the key. To what? I asked quietly. He looked at me. To becoming who they need you to be. Not who you are, who they want you to be, who they'll pay to see. I leaned back in my chair. And who is she? Really? He paused, like he'd waited years to be asked that. There are 4, he said. Spirits. Old ones. Been here since the beginning. Each one rides through something different. Power, greed, lust. He nodded at the wig. This one rides through conflict. She's war. My mind twisted trying to connect the dots. Then why me? I asked. He smiled for the first time. Because you're ready. He stood and walked behind me. I felt his presence like a shadow stretching over my back. I won't put it on you, he said. That part's always your choice. He held it out. Hold it. I didn't want to, but I did. The moment my hands touched it, I felt heat. Not surface heat, but something internal, like the temperature of my soul was rising. My heartbeat slowed, or maybe the world did. Whispers filled my ears, voices I couldn't understand, laughter, screaming, applause, prayers. It wasn't noise, it was devotion, and in my head, images poured in. Standing ovations, my face on billboards, awards, fans, wealth, legacy. But every image was followed by something else. Fathers arguing with sons, families torn, churches laughing at trauma, me dressed in the wig, over and over, performing, smiling, becoming something I didn't recognize. I dropped it. It landed on the floor like dead weight. I stood, breathing hard. Tyler watched me with calm eyes. You felt it, he said. I nodded. I can't, I whispered. You already have. He bent down, picked it up, brushed it off gently, like it was something sacred. There's no shame in wanting to be seen, he said. But understand, once you put it on, you can't take it off. Not really. Not in here. He tapped his chest. I backed toward the door. He didn't follow. As I reached the threshold, he said one last thing. You came here for answers, but the real question is, who are you without a role to hide behind? I left. Ran past the stages, past the trailers, past the banners with quotes and smiling faces. But I didn't go home. I went to the prop barn, found the one thing I knew could end this, a blowtorch. I lit it in the parking lot, held the flame steady, stared at the wig. The curls twitched in the breeze like they were alive. Then I dropped it in the fire. The flame caught instantly. Orange, then green, then black smoke. The scent was unbearable, like burning sugar and hair and something rotten underneath it all. I stood there sweating, trembling, watching it melt into a pile of bubbling plastic. And then I heard footsteps. Tyler. He didn't yell, didn't rush. He just watched the fire, expression unreadable. When he finally spoke, his voice was calm. You shouldn't have come back. I burned it, I said. It's gone. He shook his head slowly. You still don't get it? He reached into his coat pocket, pulled out another wig, identical, untouched, twirled it in his hand like a magician pulling a coin from behind a child's ear. You think it's about the wig, he said. He looked up at me, eyes darker now. It was never about the lace, or the hair, or the show. It was always about the choice. I didn't move. I couldn't. Because I finally understood. This wasn't about destroying something physical. It was about rejecting an idea, an identity, a false spirit masquerading as success. He walked away, curls bouncing slightly in his hand. And just before he vanished into the shadows, he slid the wig on. His shoulders hunched. His voice changed. That laugh, that familiar Medea laugh, twisted into something lower, slower, ancient, like the character had never belonged to him, like it had always belonged to her. I didn't go straight home. Instead, I walked, past the edge of the studio lot, past the same gate I entered with so much hope. I turned around once, just to see it again. That's when I saw him, another young actor, mid-20s, skin like mine, hair like mine, even the same walk, eager, springy, like he was chasing something invisible. He hopped off a golf cart, grinning wide, flanked by a studio rep with a clipboard and a lanyard. They laughed. The rep clapped him on the back. You could tell it was his first big break. He looked happy, but then he looked at me, just for a second. Eyes locked. I don't know what came over me, but I lifted my hand slightly. Not a wave, more like a warning. Like I wanted to say, don't go in there. Not yet, but he smiled like I was a fan. Then he turned and walked in. Gone. I stayed there, silent. The lot behind me humming with lights and laughter and dreams. That's when it hit me. Tyler's words. 4 spirits, one riding through conflict, war, but not war like tanks and guns and countries falling. This was quieter, deeper. This war didn't need soldiers. It needed stages. And the wig was the uniform. It wasn't stitched from hair and lace. It was stitched from need. The need to be seen, to be heard, to be adored. You put it on thinking it's just a costume, a role, a little performance for the world. But once you wear something long enough, once it starts to fit, you forget you ever took it off. You forget who you were underneath. You stop being a person. You become the character. And if enough people clap, you start believing the character is better than the real thing, that it's you. That's how war wins. Not through destruction, but through transformation, through the quiet death of the authentic self. And I wasn't immune, because I wanted it. I wanted all of it. The recognition, the praise, the legacy. I told myself I'd use the platform for good, tell real stories, give back, break barriers. But deep down, I knew the truth. I wanted to be worshipped, and that wig knew it. It didn't choose me because I was innocent. It chose me because I was vulnerable. Because I'd already rehearsed the lies so many times, I was ready to believe it. And in some ways, I still do. I went home, packed my bags, deleted every audition email in my inbox, turned off my phone and left it on the windowsill. I needed silence. I needed to remember the sound of my own voice. The next few days felt like detox. No scripts, no costumes, no lights, just me. But the echoes didn't stop. In my dreams, I still heard the laughter, that warped, guttural laugh that used to make stadiums roar. Now it followed me in my sleep. I started writing again. Not plays, not screenplays, just thoughts. Memories of who I was before the dream. The kid in Chicago who used to memorize monologues in the mirror, who thought stories could save people, who believed in art like it was a kind of church. And I wondered, was that kid still in there? Or had he already been rewritten? One night I took a walk, cleared my head, found myself near a small black box theater on the south side. An open mic night was in session. The sign outside said, "True stories only." I hesitated, but then I stepped inside. The room was dim, no cameras, no producers, no fancy chairs, just people. And for the first time in a long time, I told the truth, not the whole thing, not about the wig, not about Tyler, but about what it feels like to lose yourself in a performance you never agreed to. And something strange happened. They listened, not like fans, not like critics, but like people who saw me. And that's when I realized I never needed the wig. I just needed to be known. And maybe, just maybe, I didn't have to become a character to do it. But the story doesn't end there, because I still dream of her sometimes. I'll be walking down a hallway and hear the click of her heels. I'll see a reflection in a window and it's not mine. I'll hear a laugh in a crowded theater and feel a chill down my spine. She's not gone. She never is. Because the wig isn't a curse. It's an invitation. It offers itself to anyone desperate enough to say yes. It doesn't care about race or gender or fame. It just wants to be worn, to be seen, to be worshipped. And someone somewhere will put it on next. Someone who wants everything. Someone like I used to be. And maybe like you. So here's the question I'll leave you with. If you could have everything you ever wanted, fame, power, legacy, would you wear it? Would you wear the wig? Or would you walk away and spend the rest of your life wondering if you made the right choice? Let me know in the comments. Would you wear the wig or would you run? I'm listening.